Well, good evening, everyone, from COP29 here in Baku. Now, on a day when farmers were protesting in the UK and in France, farmers too were the focus here at COP29, but for very different reasons. A number of high-level meetings have taken place today with the aim of supporting farmers to become more climate resilient. Also, there have been high-level meetings on water scarcity, methane emissions, food security, and of course, all the time too, negotiations are taking place behind the scenes on this all-important new global climate finance goal. Well, as always, with me is Anastasia Lavrina and Orkan Amashov. Anastasia, a very busy day today, almost two things going on at the same time, the finance negotiations in the background, and then also this focus on farmers, food and water.
Right, especially when it comes to the farmers, it was for me really interesting to have a fruitful conversation with a representative of the FAO, the organization within the United Nations, and where we discussed in details Baku Harmonia climate initiative for farmers adopted here on the COP29 platform by the presidency of COP29 with the support of FAO, United Nations. And I would like to highlight three main key issues, I would like to say, from this document, which will definitely benefit all the farmers all around the globe. First, it will help to create a platform where farmers, stakeholders and policymakers can share the knowledge and learn from each other and their experience. It relates to all countries all around the globe. Second issue, they want to make investment in agriculture more attractive for the international organizations, the funds, the banks, who will more invest in any kind of issues related to the work of farmers. And third, to empower farmers, especially women and youth. As a representative of the FAO say that how they see the future role of this organization is that they will bring the experts, farmers, not only policymakers from different parts of the world together to create the platform for them to exchange the knowledge, to benefit from the experience, and to make sure that the agreement reached within the COP29 will benefit everyone, every single person, every single country, and will not allow anyone to stay behind of the agreed documents. I think this is one of the best achievements at COP29 here in Baku today.
And Orkan, in the theme of two things going on at the same time, we've got those very serious negotiations still continuing. We can also hear people joyfully singing Beatles songs in the background too. So there is this mixture, isn't there, of sort of fun, hard work, and also anticipation at whether or not we will see that agreement, that infamous, that much sought after agreement later on this week.
NCQG, of course, that's a key deliverable of this COP29. We all the time, on a regular basis, are hearing different pieces of information. Sometimes those pieces of information do not confirm with each other, sometimes do not coalesce into one structure, but of course each piece of information should be treated with a pinch of salt, of course. What we have heard on the grapevine today, and from some sources, of course, that now intense negotiations, which are very challenging, are underway, and they are centered on achieving a new climate finance goal ranging between 300 and 500 billion US dollars. Initial figure that we heard was 1 trillion US dollars, and we understand that private sector and also multilateral development banks should play an important role in terms of achieving that figure. There are divisions, there are frictions, of course. What is very clear that Trump's re-election and distinct possibility of United States withdrawing from the Paris Agreement, all of these things cumulatively have had a considerable bearing on the nature of the negotiations. It looks like that the European Union and the United States are expecting some other developing countries with a greater deal of financial competence, financial capabilities to contribute to that NCQG decision. It looks like that South Korea, Singapore and others are happy to be involved, but simultaneously, of course, Saudi Arabia and others are not happy with being involved. So China is an important player, of course. China is important also in the context of its capability, exerting pressure on countries within that China plus G77 group. Therefore, discussions have so far proven to be incredibly complicated. But ultimately, if we have to reach a consensus all options must be considered because we cannot leave this COP29 empty-handed. But there have been some elements of progress so far. We mentioned about them yesterday on day one, Article 6.5, 6.4. In connection with that, we had elements of progress, and also yesterday in connection with Article 6.8. So elements of the puzzle are coming together. Picture is slightly blurred, but eventually we get that crystal clear picture towards the end of the conference. Of course, no one was expecting an easy ride, and to be absolutely honest with you, what we are observing today was perfectly expected before. So therefore, no element of surprise, just the tough negotiations will continue, and hopefully by the end of the week we will get there.
Tough negotiations will continue, Anastasia. So how do you make sense of all of this? And Orkan talked about the pieces of the puzzle. There are many different factors going on, aren't there, at the same time? There's a sense of fun, but there's also a sense of incredible hard work. We've moved into the detail of the negotiations, and we're talking about very big picture issues, but we're also talking about technical detail. How would you sum up where you think we are at this point?
Of course, it's tough negotiations, debates, when each country has its own position in relation to climate change, financial sustainability. But I would like also to bring your attention to G20 Rio de Janeiro Leaders Declaration, which is very significant as the countries which is leading the financial sources are willing to see the successful outcome of COP29 here in Baku, Azerbaijan. And if we remember, just yesterday we spoke about that, Antonio Guterres also called all member states, especially superpowers, to find the right consensus, to make sure the countries here in Baku can get the decision which will benefit other member states, the United Nations. And here in this declaration, we may see the positive results. All of those negotiations and debates which we observe here at COP29, it's also the countries may have debates, but the most important thing is that they try to overcome all of those difficulties which they have. If they have negotiations, if they have the debate, that means we still have an optimism about the outcome of that. If they don't talk to each other in some geopolitical meaning, that may bring some problems in the end. But if they meet, if they discuss, if they bring such sensitive issues as climate change, financial sources, then gender equality, tourism, education, youth engagement, all of these issues in together make us feeling positive about the final result. And I want to also just briefly inform about my interesting conversation with another representative of the FAO who say that he thinks the countries may reach a consensus not by Friday, but by Sunday. I was surprised by this idea which he said, but still it's also make me feeling positive about the final declaration to be adopted here in Baku.
So Orkan, a sense that Sunday might be the day, not Friday. How much importance should we place on these numbers, this suggestion that we may not be looking at the $1 trillion number, we might be looking at a slightly smaller number? What's that about? Is that about just getting some kind of agreement made? How much importance do you place on those numbers?
I earlier spoke to President of Palau, and he mentioned about the necessity of getting to that point of consensus. We cannot leave this COP empty-handed. Of course, I think there was a tactical element in terms of declaring that $1 trillion figure. This figure is perfectly justified, that's what we need, but raising ambition at the beginning was key in order to achieve at least considerable proportion of that ambition. Therefore, if we achieve something less than $1 trillion, for me, that would not be a sign of the fact that we have not achieved anything. And I think that it's very important. Finance is important, of course, and this climate finance goal is incredibly important in the context of this COP, but it is about reaching discernible form of consensus. So, of course, there are certain challenges. We perfectly understand those divisions, and each single figure should be treated with a pinch of salt, of course, because the picture is very complex. I mean, earlier I was speaking to one expert from the UN, and he was saying that we should treat figures in the context of we should multiply them, of course, because we talk about annual figure, we talk about the figure which should be raised over the time period, and there are different elements within that whole structure. Therefore, I think that sense of compromise and sense of consensus is far more important than the actual figure, in my humble opinion.
Okay, well, thank you both very much indeed. A lot of complexity, an awful lot at stake, and you can really sense it now as we move towards those final days of this great event here at COP29. We'll be with you every step of the way, every day until the end here on AnewZ. So do stay tuned and keep with us as we continue to analyse COP29.